Welcome to Life After, a podcast for women to take you from feeling like you're just surviving to thriving, to creating a life you really love. Expect to discover tips and tricks to get there. Each episode will have actionable steps to empower you to make changes. I started this podcast because I've been through it all, from getting out of a marriage with a narcissist to completely rebuilding my life. And now I'm on a mission to help you too. You can change your life. It's absolutely possible. Follow your bliss and don't be afraid, and doors will open where you didn't know they were going to be. Joseph Campbell. Fear has two meanings: forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. The choice is yours. Zig Ziglar. Courage is not the towering oak that sees storms come and go. It is the fragile blossom that opens in the snow. Mackenzie Swaim. Do things differently and do different things. Brian Moran. I picked quotes today that spoke to me, and hopefully will do the same for you. Welcome to season 3. I can't believe we're here. When I started this podcast 3 years ago, I never really imagined that I'd still be here 3 seasons later. I'm not really sure where I thought I'd be. I just thought, I'm going to start a podcast, not really knowing the work, time, and effort it would take. The commitment it's built to stick with it really surprises me, actually. And I'm proud of myself and grateful for all of you, the listeners, for also sticking with it. It has been an amazing journey so far, and I've learned so much. This season is going to be a little different because I'm going to have guests on a lot more. The intent is to have the first episode of the month where I talk about a chosen topic, and the second episode of the month to bring on a special guest. I'm so excited to share this season with you. We're going to have some real wisdom. I'm absolutely certain that's going to be shared with us with all the guests we're going to have. So I hope you continue to stick around and allow me to share with you. 2024 was a year of real growth for me, and I'm sure for many of you too. Now, you know what that means, right? It means I had a fair number of challenges. And because of that, I didn't hit my goals as effectively as I wanted to. And that's okay. Sometimes we focus on one area of our lives more than others, and it impacts what we're able to do and how we're able to show up. And when you throw challenges in there, then it impacts what we're able to accomplish. So it's okay when we don't hit our goals. It just means we got to realign and reconsider and reflect and kind of get back to where we want to be. I think the key is just to keep moving forward, keep coming back to your positive mindset, and be willing to lean in to your learning curve. I recently started a new job, and that can be really vulnerable, right? Because, well, first, even when you're in a difficult environment, which I definitely was, leaving the old job, sometimes we don't want to change. Sometimes the challenges that we know, sometimes that feels safer than going out into the world and risk going into something new, something that we don't know. So even though you know it's the right thing to do, having the courage to actually go out and make the change in the first place can feel really vulnerable. And then once you do have the courage to do that, you get the bravery and you step up and you do that, then you got to go through the process to make the change. And then you end up in a new environment. Then there's the vulnerability about, am I going to fit in? Are these people going to like me? Am I just going to be right back in the same environment that I was in before? Is this really the right environment for me? Particularly when you come from an environment that was difficult. You've got that kind of, oh my goodness, how should we say, that challenging environment hangover, let's call it that, where you're kind of tentative, you're a little bit nervous because you've just come out of this environment where you think, is it, am I going to be in the same position that I was in before? And really, you're healing from it. So you're tentative and you just wonder what this new group of people is going to be like. Being in a new place, whether it's a new job, whether you're volunteering someplace new for the first time, going to school, starting new classes, all of these things can be really vulnerable. So be kind to yourself. Give yourself the space to lean in to the time it takes for you to settle into that new place or experience. I'm so fortunate that the new job is fantastic. And the people there are really awesome, and they've welcomed me with open arms.
Are you finding yourself struggling in a relationship and wondering if you're dealing with a narcissist? You're not alone, and I've got a resource that can help. Get my 5 questions to confirm you're not the problem. This helps you identify the emotions associated with being in a controlling relationship. Just head over to locatecoaching.com/free gift and take the first step toward clarity and confidence in your relationships.
And man, oh man, am I in learning curve. You got to lean into your learning curve when you enter a new space, whether it's a new job or school or whatever it is. So I wanted to talk a little bit about learning curve because I reference it a lot, although I'm not really sure that we've ever really gone through the 4 stages of learning curve all that thoroughly. The 4 stages of learning curve, they're kind of a tongue twister, so bear with me. The first stage of learning curve is unconscious incompetence. You got to say it really slow or you kind of stumble over it. Unconscious incompetence. And what this means is you don't know what you don't know. The first stage of learning curve, this doesn't mean that you're not. I was kind of thinking about this as I was planning for this episode. It doesn't mean that you're not ever going to learn anything, because like you look developmentally at babies or at littles, and they don't know, obviously, that they're going to crawl, that they're going to learn how to feed themselves, that they're going to walk and run and go through all of those developmental stages. So there's no reason to despair about not knowing what you don't know. Those things will come to you when the timing is right. Just realize that you got to listen when the timing is right. The universe or whomever you believe in, the creator, God, Buddha, whatever that presence is going to put that thing in front of you right when the timing is right. And so our job is to pay attention and to know now is my time. So you'll get through the unconscious incompetence stage. I promise you. Something will always put itself in front of you to learn. The next step in the learning curve, the next stage is conscious incompetence. Now, this stage is actually the hardest step to get through because we know exactly what we don't know, and it can become incredibly frustrating. Here's the thing as adults, we have a tendency to forget how to learn, and we tend to think that learning should happen very quickly. We try something the first time, and maybe we get it, I don't know, let's say 54% right. And we think, well, that really didn't work like we thought it was going to. So we try it again, and let's see, maybe we get it 4% better. If you've ever followed any of my Facebook lives, you all know that I am so wildly crazy about the book Rise of Superman. It's one of the best books I've ever read, and it's about flow. A piece of the book talks about how it basically gives you a metric for learning curve, which means that if you improve in your learning curve, and he doesn't use the term learning curve, but if you improve your learning at 4% the next time you try something, that's like world-class learning. Okay, so let's go back to our example. You try something, you get it at 54% the first time, and you improve 4% the next time. So now you're at 50. Oh, I did my math wrong. You're at 58%. And you think, okay, well, I did that wrong, and I did that wrong, and I got that wrong, and I got that piece wrong. So you think, all right, I'm going to try it again. And so you get to 62%. You still hit that world-class learning of 4% the next time you try it. What happens is adults, we go through 2 or 3 or 4, or let's say you really want this thing. And so you go through 6 or 7 iterations. You're still at 65, maybe 70% of where you think you should be in the learning process. And so what happens is we give up. We throw our hands up in the air. I can't do it. It's too hard. This is how we tend to learn as adults. We forget that every single one of us, when we were babies, when we were littles, we took hundreds of attempts to learn to roll over, to crawl, to walk, to run. And yeah, of course, you occasionally have somebody out there who goes, oh, well, I stood up and walked right away. Of course, there are people that go through that. But then there's something else that that person did that probably took them 600 attempts, maybe to say their first word. We all have different skill sets. We all are at different levels and learn differently depending upon what the thing is that we're learning. So there's always something you can find where you attempted to do something as a little, most things really, where it took a couple hundred attempts before you got it. So keep in mind, in that conscious incompetent stage, it's likely going to be frustrating. That doesn't mean to give up. It means that each failure, I'm even loath to use that word, it's not a failure. It's moving you closer to learning that thing you want to learn. And as adults, we don't give ourselves enough space and grace when we don't just pick it up right away. It takes time and practice, 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 practice. So just recognize you're going to need that extra practice in that stage, and it'll eventually move you through the conscious incompetence stage. The third step is conscious competence. The example I always like to use here is a new driver. When we're in the conscious competence stage, we are acutely aware. This is really a person learning how to drive, is really the best example. Because when you're learning something and we know that we're learning it and we've had a little practice with it, we tend to go slowly and we really deliberately move through the steps that we're learning or have learned how to do. So as a new driver, you're cautious. You're as cautious as when you were just learning. And so you get in the car. You put on your seatbelt. I'm trying to think about what all those automatic things are that we do when we get in the car. You adjust your mirrors. You adjust the seat. And then once you've done all of those steps that you learned in driver's ed, then you're ready to turn the car on and go. When we're in that stage of conscious competence, we really are aware of the steps that we're taking to do that action we're doing. I just started this new job, obviously. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, there are lots of things I'm really consciously thinking about. For example, like when a new client comes in, what are the steps I'm taking? And so one of the things I can recommend to a lot of you out there, if you're starting something new or you think that you're going to utilize a process for someone else, for yourself or for someone else in the future, is to write it down or record it in a video when you're in this conscious competence state. Because while you're in this stage, you're going to capture all of those steps really clearly. So then when someone else in the future, if you need to train someone in the future, it's going to be easier for you to have them down already. Notice how it kind of took me a second to, and I had to really kind of focus on what are those things that you automatically do when you get in a car before you drive it. Well, that's what happens in the next step is those actions that become habitual become so automatic that when we have to go back and think about it, think about where we were in this stage, conscious competence, it takes us a little time to focus on them. What are those things that I do when I started this process? So when you're in the conscious competence stage, it takes less time and energy and focus to come up with what the process is. So if you capture it now and record it in some way, whether it be on paper or in actual video, then when you need to provide it to somebody else, it's way more complete, more thorough, and more realistic. So this is just a tip for anybody out there that does any training, or if you're learning a job that you know is going to be passed on to somebody else. It's a great way to do it. Finally, the fourth stage is unconscious competence. And this is where you just know what you know and you just do it. We'll get back to the driving example. So I have two kids who have learned how to drive in the last few years. And so I've been through this process with both of them and the conscious competence learning process, watching them go through it. And I've been a driver for, well, let's just say a little bit longer than that. So driving is a very automatic thing for me. My driving is in the unconscious competence stage. Therefore, it's very automatic when I get in the car. I know the steps. I don't have to stop and process them actively. I don't have to think about things like turning on my turn signal when I'm driving to at a light or making a turn. I don't have to think about all those pieces, the braking, the looking forward, the checking my mirrors, because they're automatic. Now, keep in mind that just because you're in the unconscious competence stage doesn't mean you don't have to pay attention at all. You can still get in an accident if you're not paying attention while driving, even when you've been a driver for a long time. It doesn't mean we have free reign to check out in the unconscious competence stage. It does mean that there are things that we can process more quickly and easily in this stage, which then means we can use our energy to go towards more complicated or complex tasks. Or let's say in our working environment, we can learn new tasks. We can build on the skill sets that we have, build on those unconscious competence skills, and learn other things. Those are the four stages, the four steps of learning curve. And your learning curve can really impact your mindset, right? We always bring it back to mindset because learning curve, as I said, can really feel frustrating at different stages, particularly that second step, conscious incompetence. Be really mindful, kind, and patient, not only with yourself, but when you know someone else is learning something. Recognize what stage they might be in and maybe give them and yourself a little grace and space, especially when we're out in the world and we know that someone's being trained, that they're in that conscious incompetence or conscious competence stages. They're really putting a lot of effort into trying to learn that new thing. They're really focusing. And so, having a little extra patience when we know that's the case is always such a kind space to be in. All right. So I'm going to shift a little bit now to say that when maybe you're not in as positive a mindset as you'd like to be, whether it's because you've had some challenges, like some of us did in 2024, whether it's because you're in a new environment, like changing a new career, and you're kind of shifting out of a less positive environment, whether that's a career or a relationship or some other reason, and you're shifting out of that less positive environment and hopefully into a more positive environment. Or even if it's because you're working through learning curve and therefore you're spending a little more time in frustration than you want to be. There are lots of reasons that we can feel like we need to be actively aware of our mindset and want to be moving into a more positive mindset. There are ways that you can actively shift your mindset. Some of them we've talked about again and again and again, and that's because they work, and we'll always come back to them because they work, and they're quick and easy and lovely. And a couple we're going to add that we haven't talked about, or maybe we've talked about a little bit. One of the things that really, really works is music. You knew I was going to say music. Music always works. So if you want to shift your mindset, listen to music. Listen to the type of music that you want to shift your mindset into. Now, there is no negative feeling. The only time that there are quote unquote negative feelings is because we attribute a negative idea to that feeling. So if you're sad and you're needing or wanting to feel sad, that's okay. We feel sad sometimes. Put on the sad playlist. It's all right. Just know that staying sad for a long period of time is not going to help you move through your life in a way that keeps you happy and healthy. So give that sadness its place, its due, and then move back towards the mindset that's going to allow you to live your life feeling fulfilled and with purpose. If you're feeling kind of grumbly and you've had all those challenges and you want to move out of them, then put on that fantastic playlist that shifts your mindset into a more focused, positive, whatever word resonates with you in that moment. My pro tip on this is to have those playlists created in advance because, of course, if you're anything like me, you won't even remember the name of your favorite song when you need it most. The second tip we talk about a lot is to move, whether that's simply walking the dog around the block or just getting out in nature for 10 or 15 minutes or doing something more intense. Yoga, Pilates, running, or maybe a longer walk, going to the gym. Whatever movement looks like for you, moving is always going to improve your mindset. It's going to release all of those great chemicals we want to release in our brain. Dopamine and the endorphins, and there's like 67 of them that I'm not going to be able to come up with off the top of my head. But if you read Rise of Superman, there's a whole long list of them. All of those chemicals are going to get released, and it's going to shift your mindset. A couple of new tips that I've kind of had come up a fair bit recently, and that maybe I've touched on. The first is sleep. Sleep, 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 sleep. Sleep is an absolute critical factor in our overall health. And having a consistent sleep routine is 100% going to improve your mindset. 100%. It's also going to improve so much more for you. So 100%. Get more sleep, get consistent sleep, whatever you can do to improve your sleep. I have a tip for those of you that might be waking up at 3 a.m. So send me a message. It's kind of long, and I know the episode's already gone a little long. So send me a direct message, email, text me, call me, however you know how to get a hold of me. There's also notes in there's also contact information in the show notes. And I can give you my tip for the 3 a.m. wake up, can't go back to sleep. All right. I just read somewhere while I was writing this, and I apologize, I can't remember the source, but drinking water apparently, is a really crucial component to your health. I always drink a ton of water, but if you want, obviously, when something does great things for your body, it's going to do great things for your mind. So you want to improve your mindset. Maybe as you start out the new year, maybe add drinking more water to your list of healthy habits. Finally, the last tip is about breathing. Now, I'm actually going to focus more on this tip this year. I don't think we've really stressed it too much in the past. I'm going to do a little more research so that I can do a really thorough bit about it. But it's really popped up for me a lot in the last couple of weeks. So want to highlight it a little bit. I was talking to one of the counselors at my new job, and she was just talking about the power of even just basic breathing that she practices with her clients. I also just recently listened to a Lewis Howes podcast episode that had Amy Cuddy. She's the researcher. I think she's associated with Harvard. In any case, you've heard me talk about Amy several times because she does the TED Talk on power poses. I just love her. It's a fantastic TED Talk. Anyway, in the podcast with Lewis, they were talking about breathing and getting your nervous system kind of back into alignment when you're experiencing anxiety. She talked about 4-7-8 breathing, where you inhale for 4, you hold for 7, and exhale for 8. There's also a concept called square breathing, where you inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and hold for 4, and you do that 4-4-4-4 process. So as you can see, there's just so many different ways to breathe. It doesn't really matter which one you pick. Just kind of doing it consciously. If you're feeling anxiety or stressed or you just need a break, the kids gave me a mindfulness book for Christmas, and several of the exercises were around ways to breathe, to kind of stop and be mindful and process your breathing. So we'll come back to this in another episode. Just know that there are so many positives for being aware of your breath and how it can bring you back to center and therefore impact your mindset. It's also going to ground you. And of course, the impact to your nervous system is, tremendous. And there's no wrong way to do it. So you can practice whatever way you want. We're always going to come back to mindset again and again and again, because that's what changes our lives, is being able to shift our mindset. You all know I work predominantly with women who have been in a relationship with a narcissist, or have been in abusive relationships or domestic violence. And so your mindset, it's really more than just your mindset. It's mentally, emotionally, psychologically. My clients are often just shredded, depending upon the intensity and the severity of and the time spent with the narcissist or the abuser. And so I just, if shifting their mindset can change their lives, which I've seen them do again and again, imagine what it can do for yours. This podcast is a valuable resource for anyone seeking to make meaningful changes in their life. I'm here to support you on your unique journey, offering guidance and encouragement every step of the way. There will be new episodes on the second and fourth Wednesday every month. Please follow on your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss any episodes. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to today's episode on mindset. Remember, your mindset is a choice that you believe in, since you get to wholeheartedly believe what your mindset is. And as Gandhi says, your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your values become your destiny. What do you want your destiny to be?
As we wrap up, here's the thing. I've made every mistake. I've literally been there and done that. It's one step at a time, and you'll get there. There's hope. You've got this. If you're struggling in a relationship and wondering if it might be controlling, you're not alone. Download my free PDF at locatecoaching.com/free gift to help you find clarity and confidence. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll see you soon.